Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second joint Foreman's Katello sprint demo. You can see that we have a full agenda, so I'm going to ask the presenters pay attention to the timer and move along quickly. I will show the timer in my window. Also note for presenters, if you haven't ever seen it before, there is a nice demo checklist of information for making sure that what you're going to show is already set and good for those watching. With that, we'll get started with Ori showing off new fields and actions in Discovery.
Hi guys. Okay, last trip I've been working on changes to the Discovery plugin.
You're a little quiet, Ori.
Okay, I'll try to get closer. First thing is there are new fields in the discovered host. CPU, memory, discount, and disk sizes. They all come from the facts, but they are integers to help search and sort. So CPU, for example, we have the fact physical processor count, but you can only check if it's equal to something because it's a string. But for CPU count, we can check if it's larger than 1 or less than everything that you can do on an integer. You can sort the field. Now, the CPU, it actually comes from physical processor count right now. There was a discussion on IRC, should it be from processor count? So if anyone has input, if you want to change this, then please talk to me. The next thing is the reboot action that was added to the index page. It's also in the host itself, which reboots the host. And then to get it rediscovered and everything. They were both also added to the API, so they now exist in the Hammer plugin for Discovery. Yeah. Now, the reboot exists. Also, refresh fast that wasn't in the API was added to the API, so it can be seen in Hammer, and it is also seen right now. What's missing is still the auto provision, which is new, and delete, so these will be added later. The lists output already looks like the new UI with all the fields, except it still hasn't been merged, so I won't show you that today. There were more changes that had to do with the implementation of Discovery, that it now can support hosts through Smart Proxy and not only Foreman directly, with the use of Shlomi's Smart Proxy plugin. But Shlomi's not showing that today, so I guess you'll see that part next time. That's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Ori. Quick note to everyone that I forgot before starting. If you are an early presenter, please leave the Hangout after you're done presenting. Please pay attention, presenters, to the order, and don't join if you are later in the presentation. Also, for those watching, please use the question and answers app to ask questions, and we will ask them at the end of each individual presenter's section so that they have a chance to answer before they leave the Hangout. Some more Discovery with Greg.
Thanks, Eric. So, yeah, I'm going to move really fast on this. One of the features we wanted to get into the next big Discovery release was the ability to extend the image at boot time with your own custom stuff. So I'm going to show you a prototype of that. I'm going to kick off just by rebooting my discovered host because it takes a little while to come up and I don't want to spend time waiting for it. You can see I've got no discovered hosts in my index at the moment. So while that's booting, I'll show you what's happening. I've created a zip file. The format looks something like this. So we have a bin directory with some files in it, we have a fax directory with some custom facts in it, we have a lib directory with some libraries, and in that we have a Ruby lib directory with some Ruby libraries. All of this stuff gets used, we package that up in a zip, something like this, zip -r. At the moment it's hard-coded, you have to use extension.zip. That's going to become flexible in the next few days so that you can specify it in the PXE boot, just like we do with the URL and so on. But for now it's hard-coded. You zip it up, you put it on your Foreman server or on your proxy, and it downloads it as it boots up. And then it unpacks it, it adds the bin to the path, it adds the lib to the LD library path, it adds libruby to the Ruby lib, and it also adds facts to the factor lib. So all of this gets set up automatically. If you have an auto start file, it will run it at the end of that setup process. So you can add scripts to set up your RAID controller, run a BIOS update, whatever you need. And then it will report into Foreman. So obviously the custom facts that you put in will also be there. So just to show you what we're going to expect to see, if we have a look in our auto start, I'm going to obviously you can configure the password on the discovery image, but I thought I'd set up a key for fun. I'm just going to echo into a temp file just here, and then I'm going to try and use the binary. So I'm going to use NTP date to set the time, and I'm going to use Ruby -r test to try and load my test library that's in the extension. So the interesting thing here is NTP date requires libcrypto. Libcrypto isn't in our image, so it will have to find this file for it to work. So if we just have a look, it's finished booting. So if I come back here and I just log in, and oh, the NTP date didn't work. It worked on test like 5 minutes ago, and obviously something's changed. NTP date -b. Okay, so that's working. Something odd happened with the path, no doubt. So you can get the idea. The idea is that you set up all your library stuff, and if very quickly we just refresh here, I've got 30 seconds. So I've got my reported host. If I come down here and I look at the bottom, test extension has the value with libs. If I just go back here and cat, that's what I was expecting. Test extension with libs. So it's reported the extra fact in as well, and then you can use that for your policies and all the rest of it. So that's the basic idea. I'm done with 2 seconds to spare. Questions?
Looks like you have one question. Can I have multiple extensions or only one zip file?
Currently one. Multiple is definitely planned. Will probably be sorted when it's merged in the next few days. It's not very difficult.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Up next, we have Joseph talking about API token authentication and turbo links. Maybe Joseph is not available yet, so we'll move on.
I'm here, just getting off of mute. Can everyone see my screen? Share the right screen?
Kind of scratchy audio, Joseph.
Excuse me?
Your audio's kind of scratchy and gravelly.
My audio is not good if I get closer to the computer. Is that better?
Now it's just louder, but still kind of gravelly.
Okay, do you want me to continue, or do you want me to stop and try to go to a different room?
I'll move to the next person, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
So next up will be Homer talking about the dashboard rewrite.
Okay, so this is following my, you can click my screenshot so everyone can see it. Following my mail about rewriting the dashboard. Basically, the idea is allow more customization and more extensibility of the dashboard for the users. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Okay. So basically, the dashboard now will have two buttons on each widget. One will just hide the widget. The other one completely removes it. Widgets are saved per user, and not the previous default was saving them in local storage, which it changes from computer to computer. Now they are saved in the database for the users. And say you want this host, which is very important to you, you want to see its runtime on the dashboard all the time, just click Add to Dashboard, and you can see the runtime for this host on your dashboard whenever you need it. That's basically it. If there are any more questions about it.
Looks like no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tomer.
Okay, I can try again to share, or can you hear me now, Eric?
We can. It's still a little gravelly, but I think if you speak slowly, you'll be able to get through it. Okay.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, does everyone see the Postman screen?
We do.
Okay, so authentication using the API. Just show the basic authentication we use currently. You have your username and password, refresh the header. We have an authorization here, and we can see the API. Obviously, trust me that if there is the username and password is wrong, it will not allow you to enter. So that's obvious. You can post to this URL here. I'm using the gem called Doorkeeper. And if you post to OAuth and token, and you pass your username and password here, and the grant type is password, and it's the post verb, you send it. Here's the response. I get a token here, an access token, and by default it lasts for 2 hours. I would show you in the SQL database if I could switch screens that it added a token to a table in the database called OAuth access tokens. And so I'm going to copy and paste this token. And now for future calls, before I was here, right, with domain. So we're going to remove the authorization and try to send it. And obviously it cannot. But if I enter here access token, pass the token, now for the next 2 hours I can make API calls with this token and not have to send the username and password in the header each time. If you don't want to pass it in the URL, remove this. And if I do authorization header, the type is called bearer, then I pass in the token in the header here, and I send it. It works. Obviously, if I change the token, I add a freeze here, it doesn't work. And that's about it. If I try to change the password is wrong. It says invalid grant, so I only get a token. I have a valid username and password the first time. That's it. Any questions?
Looks like no questions just yet, but feel free to move on to the Turbo.
Yeah, can you come back, because I have to switch branches and start up Rails again, so I don't want to waste time, so check back with me afterwards.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Next up will be Stephen, first showing errata email notifications, and then he will go into the CLI and errata views now available.
Hi, so I'm going to show 3 new email notifications that are in Katello. So when you view your user preferences in Foreman now, you can select which mail notifications you want to receive. So the 3 Katello ones are a notification when a promotion finishes, a notification when a sync finishes, and then a recurring host advisory report. The first 2 here are ad hoc. They happen whenever a promotion or a sync happens. This last one here is recurring, and you can select when you want to receive it on these intervals. So the host advisory email gives you a summary of all of your hosts and the various types of errata that apply to them. You'll notice that there's 2 numbers for each category. The first is errata that's available today, now that you can apply to your host. The second errata here, the second number here, shows errata that's available, for example, from the library view. That's you would have to promote to actually apply to the system. And then you have a dashboard here that shows the number of hosts that are affected by each category. The second type of email is the synchronization summary. You get this whenever you synchronize a repo and you've subscribed to the notification for it. It gives you a summary of the new errata, and then a list of each up to the first 100. And then the last type of email notification is the promotion summary. Whenever you promote a content view, you'll get this email that shows you hosts that now have available errata, and it also gives you a summary of errata that are not applied to your hosts that are available in the content view now. That's really it for the email notifications. Are there any questions?
Not yet, but they may trickle in by the time you get in.
Okay, I'll switch over to demoing the new Hammer features for managing errata. So there's a couple of new features here. When you view the list of content hosts, is the font big enough?
Looks good.
Okay. When you view the list of content hosts, you'll have a new column called available errata. So in this case, you can see that this machine has 32 errata that are available to it. When you view the content host details for this host, you'll get a breakdown of what these errata are by category. So you can see that grouped by security, bug fix, and enhancement. If I want to see which content hosts are affected by a specific errata, I can filter it like this. So this will show me all the content hosts affected by this specific errata. And then if I want to go ahead and apply the errata, I can. And this will schedule the task to go out and apply the errata to the host. The second enhancements to the errata are related to actually listing and viewing the errata. So I can display all the details about a specific errata. So you can, this is the same view that you would get inside the UI. You can also now filter and search on errata based on a variety of new fields. So if you look at the help here, you'll get a list of them. So you can view them by content view version, the environment, by organization, by products, repository. You can also search them by CVE. So for example, if Heartbleed or some new security vulnerability comes out and you want to see if there's an erratum already available for it, you can actually search by the CVE and you'll get the result back in this list. So there's affected by the CVE. And that's really it for the Hammer errata features. Any questions? All right, thanks all.
All right, just a moment to see if any questions trickle in, since the stream is a little behind. Joseph, are you going to be ready to go next?
Yes, I'm ready.
Before you show off TurboLinks, there were two questions that trickled in afterwards for you, Joseph.
Sure.
First is it any faster per API call when using the token?
I have not checked any performance issues, but they're making the exact same calls. So I assume it's the same. It's using the user.try to log in to actually log in, and I just modified the authenticate method. So when it returns true, basically there's another row. If you look at my pull request, if I'm shared here. I don't know if we're going to be looking at code, but I can show you. So in the authentication, here, returns true if you authenticate. So there's just one extra or clause. So if there's a current user or there's a session, or now there's it's called a doorkeeper token resource owner, and it's an API request. So if these return as true, then you've authenticated as true. So I don't see much performance hit there.
The other question is, will this allow us to limit the amount of API requests per user per time?
Yes, there is scoping by what the token can do. I haven't entered that. I mean, I haven't just read about it, but I haven't entered any of those. I haven't expanded the PR beyond basic authentication.
All right. Now Joseph will talk about TurboLinks.
Okay, there's not much to show. TurboLinks is a gem. It's actually by default in Rails 4. And to simplify what it does, basically on any HTML page, you have the head content and you have the body. So it tries to make the browser smart enough for an in-browser caching. So if the assets in the head, except the title, of course, if those don't change, meaning the JavaScript and CSS, then it doesn't need to reload the entire page, as most requests do. So it can speed things up quite a bit. The only thing to show here is there is a progress bar, very thin and blue at the top here, at the very top of the screen. I'm going to go to Smart Proxies, and that was very fast. I don't know if anyone saw that. Let me try to go to Host. That's a slower one. If you saw the progress bar go across. But let me just switch between Smart Proxies and Compute Resources, and you should see that once it loads the first time, the second time should be faster. So I go now to Compute Resources, that was quick. I go back to Smart Proxies, and that was quick. I go back to Compute Resources. So TurboLinks is for a performance gain, and hopefully not break anything. That's it.
All right. Real quick, one other question about tokens that came in from Daniel. How are these tokens managed? Does the admin have to add them?
No. I'm not on my branch yet, but if you saw the user posts to OAuth token with the correct username and password, they get a token back in the JSON response. They have that token for 2 hours to make API calls. So the admin doesn't have to do anything. If you're referring to applications where you have a client ID and a redirect URL, that's something that is possible in Doorkeeper, but that's not something I implemented in the PR because I think that's a whole other area that that's if you're using, I think, applications, OAuth clients connecting to Foreman. That wasn't the idea. The idea was just to use the JSON API with Nexus token.
All right. Thank you much, Joseph.
Okay.
Up next will be Partha via Mike, talking about promoting content viewed with Docker content and the Docker pull URL.
All right, I'm going to play back a video here, so give me a second to get it started here.
Everyone, in the past couple of sprints, we showed how to create a repository of type Docker. Docker image in the Docker registry. Today, in the last sprint, in the current sprint, we added functionality to publish, promote, add repos to content view, all of that. So I'll be demonstrating that. I'll be showing that functionality today right now. So here, I guess, here you see two repositories in the product Fedora registry, which is a registry is an image also in the Docker Hub. And so we are using the registry image for our test, for our demo today. So let me start by creating a new content view. So here it is. I start a new content view. Call it registry again. So I create the new content view. Let me add the Docker repositories that we have previously synced. So let me add it. I click on the Docker images, and here it is. I select the registry repo that I synced. I then start publishing. So you should be able to see the repo here, the list remove page. So then I start publishing a new version. Yeah, so there you go. Publish a new version. Publishing right now, and as you can see, there's like two columns here, one showing the Docker images and the Docker tags that are in the new publish, that are going to be in the new publish repository. Once the publishing is done, you should see these numbers updated. Still going on. Yeah. Now that it's published, I can promote it to I think I have a dev environment too. So I'm just going to promote it to dev. And while the promotion and the publishing promotion is going on, I can show you like in the pulp admin that new repositories were created that points to these environments, this content view. Let me do that. So SSH to my machine. Admin Docker list. And there you go. There's the three Mr. Registries. The one that points to the library, and then there's the one that is in the dev organization. There's the registries created. There's repositories created for all of them. All right. So this should, and each of them shows that the Docker image count is 10. Polysave detail. Should be able to get the tag information. There's the importer. There's the image, and let me see. Yeah. And there it says this has one Docker tag. I think Docker images. Basically clones the content of it does what publish does for every other content type we have. It just clones the repository so that when you create a new container on the Foreman side, you can use this repository to do a Docker pull. So let's given this let me also show you the Docker pull functionality. This pretty much shows everything about the publish. Now, we can show how it's running via a Docker pull. Let me go back to my terminal. So, if I do my, I'll just do Docker images to make sure my instance is running okay. Here are my Docker images. Let's see if I can push it up a little. Just sorry about that. Take it off. Yeah, here it is. All right. So if I, so here you see in the top, it's all the Docker images that are published from Katello, from the Katello satellite machine will be preceded by with that UDN, and we are assuming they're always going to be running on port 5000. You can probably play with Python web crane and change the port number, but this is the standard port number. And here it is. So let us start. Let's start doing a Docker pull of Katello content. So before that happens, let me show you like how to get this URL. You can go to product while it's loading. You can select the repository and go to their details, and you should be able to see a URL here. Publish that URL that you can use as the Docker pull URL. You can just copy this. You can pretty much copy this line and say Docker pull on that. It's the same. It's going to be the same thing for a content view version, also content view. So you can just say UDN port number, and then you can say default organization and environment. Dev in my case. And what is the content view I had? The content view we just created. Go there. I believe it's Mr. Registry. Yeah. There's just tree. There you go. There you go. And this should pretty much, that was pretty quick because I had previously synced the registry image on this machine, but this is pretty much what the Docker pull does. It just pulls the content onto the Docker host, the host that is serving the Docker containers. You can use that. Now we can do like a Docker run on this, and you should be able to pretty much log in and play with it, play with the container if needed. And the Foreman side does that, but this should be a good, this side of the Katello and pulp side of this, the pulp side of the export does all this. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Questions?
Yeah, is that currently available in master? Oh, never mind.
No, it's not.
That's cool. All right. Thanks, Partha via Mike, for that. Next up is Walden to show content host listing for an individual errata.
All right. So here you can see the errata list page. And if you go to an individual...
You're sharing, we can't see anything, Walden.
Oh, really? Oh, let me try that again.
There we
go. We good now?
Yep.
All right, cool. So if you go to an individual errata by clicking on it in the list, go to this content host tab here, and this will show you all of the affected content hosts. You can filter by environment, and here's a little sneak preview. This isn't in master yet, but eventually you'll be able to confirm your applying the errata. And let me show you one that has an actual incremental update. So if you had an incremental update, then you'd see this screen, which will show you what was going to happen to the affected content view, just a confirmation screen before. That part's not mastered yet, as I said, but just figured I'd throw that in there real quick for those interested. One other thing I'm going to show real quick, I'm going to reclaim some of time that was used before. This repositories page just shows all the repositories that contain the errata. You can filter by environment here as well, and by content view and search. Oops, go to this one. And that's pretty much it. Just a couple of read-only views at the moment. So if there's any questions, I'll fill them, and if not, that's it.
All right, we'll give it just a moment to see if any questions come up. All right. Thanks, Walden. Up next will be David showing us removing Docker images and Puppet modules from repositories.
All right. So last iteration, I worked on Docker, removing Docker images. We already had managed packages in place, so it was just a case of making the code generic, and so it could be applied to Docker images. And we kind of got Puppet modules, removing Puppet modules for free. So I'm going to demo removing Puppet modules first. So I'm going to create a product. I'm going to create a Puppet repo. And I'm just going to upload 3 Puppet modules to my Puppet repo. So now my repo has 3 Puppet modules, so you can see. So I'm going to go in and remove one of the Puppet modules to demonstrate the feature, the new feature. So let me remove MySQL. And now my repo only has 2 modules, ACL and standard lib. And we can verify 2 Puppet modules there. And so basically I can do the same thing with a Docker repo. So let me go ahead and create a Docker repository. And I'm just going to use BusyBox from Docker Hub. You see it has 5 tags. I'm going to remove one of the images, and I'll remove an image with the tag so you can see how that works, because it will also remove the tag as well from the repository. So let me sync the repository so I get some tags and images. Now I'll go into my repository. I'll click on Manage Docker Images. You can see it has 10 images, 5 tags. And after I remove it, it will be 9 images, 4 tags. Let me just pick a Docker image here. Click remove. You can see I have 9 images now. If I go back and see the tags, I only have 4 tags. So that's pretty much it. Were there any questions? No? I'll hang out in case there are questions that come up later.
All right, that sounds like a good plan, actually. Thanks, David. Next, we'll do Justin, who's going to talk about the incremental update APIs and scope search autocomplete for errata.
Alrighty. Assume you can see my screen. So basically, there's an issue currently with the existing Katello where introducing an update to a content view is a little bit cumbersome, especially if you want to do it out of band with your normal content view promotion process. So we designed a feature called incremental update that will allow a user to basically incrementally update a content view with a small change, a single errata, a couple packages, a few Puppet modules, things like that. And as part of that change, we've actually introduced minor version numbers to content view versions. So here you see I have version 1.0 that originally was published to library and dev, and then version 1.1, which was an incremental update, which had one errata plus any package dependencies that are needed. And as you can see, there are about nine packages difference between the two content view versions. I'll show you here going through a manual incremental update. We won't wait for it to finish because it may take a couple minutes. But as you see on this SE Linux errata, there's one content view or content host here that needs this errata. But if we filter what's actually available or what systems have this errata available, it's not there. So we see right off that this system needs the errata in its content view and lifecycle environment because it's not there. So I'll move over to Postman, and you can see the API that was created for this, and Walden sort of started to demo the UI that he's working on. But I'm specifying the content view version. The environment IDs I want to go ahead and push it to. In this case, it's library and dev, and I want to resolve the dependencies. And let me confirm that that's the correct errata ID, and it is. Okay, and I should just be able to hit send, and it kick off a new incremental update. Yep. So now if we refresh this version screen, I believe we should see it in progress. And so now you see we have version 1.2 being promoted, or it's being published and promoted to library and dev. And looking at the API documentation, we can actually see all the options. It supports errata IDs, package IDs, and Puppet module IDs. And Puppet modules, if you're specifying a Puppet module or a newer version of a Puppet module that already exists, it replaces the Puppet module that is currently in the view. And you can optionally resolve dependencies and specify multiple content view version IDs, multiple errata IDs for each content view version ID. And okay, I'll go on to, well actually, yeah, I'll go on to my next feature, which was auto completion of errata. So in a previous sprint, we had switched errata over from Elasticsearch to scope search, which involved pulling in all the errata data into the database. So but autocomplete was not functioning at that time. So we went back and added support for that, which involved adding support in our Angular code to render the autocomplete properly. So as you can see, I can search by package name, and it should return all the errata with the package name kernel. And I think actually there's a bug open about some of the searches, but as you can see, the autocomplete works just fine. And this was added in such a way that essentially on a Bastion resource, all you have to do, oh, sorry, apparently I'm not supposed to show code. But anyways, this was added in such a way that you can easily add support for autocomplete for any model in Katello that's using Bastion, simply by adding one little line, basically indicating that that model supports autocomplete, and then every new two-pane page that's using autocomplete or that's using new two-pane will pick it up automatically. And that's it. We'll stop sharing.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Up next, Mike will play another video from Dustin showing Gutterball running inside the context of Katello.
All right. Give me a sec. Get it started here. All right, so this is Dustin's demo just showing that we have Gutterball running within the context of Katello. It's pretty short.
Hi, this is Dustin with the Katello team, and I worked on the Gutterball installation along with Katello. So right now when you install Katello, Gutterball comes down with it. And that exists in the Tomcat container that can open as well. And got a fresh box here that I just installed Katello on, and curls into its endpoint. That's it for my demo. Next steps are to add the UI and CLI bits part of the installation process. And, that's it for me. Thanks.
And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Mike and Dustin. Up next, we have activation key auto attach with Christine. Are you there, Christine?
I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out how, oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen?
We can.
You can? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So the auto attach feature will essentially allow a key to attach any subscription possible on a key rather than failing if any subscription is not available. So here I've had 3 keys, all with the same subscription with the exception of this one. I'm going to use this one key to get rid of to consume the 1 out of 1 on this rel with smart virtualization. Let me see. I subscribe this. It registers it. And come over here. You can see that the 1 out of 1 subscription on that key has been utilized. So then when I come and register this machine with the auto attach key set to true, it subscribes it. And you can see it's subscribed not with, oops, sorry. Not with that one utilized subscription, but one of the other ones. Now, I don't think Candlepin is doing this properly because I'm under the impression that when I register with the auto attach set to false, it should fail. But what it is actually doing is registering the systems with all remaining subscriptions, which I don't think is how it's supposed to be working. But I've let Candlepin know a couple of times, and I'm not sure when it'll be fixed, but you can see this has been registered with auto attach set to false, and instead of failing it, it now has both remaining subscriptions on the key attached. So somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but pretty sure that's not working correctly.
All right. Thank you, Christine. Moving along, up next we have Steve to show the progress of our scope search migration by looking at GPG keys and sync plans.
All right, can you hear me?
Sounds good.
Okay. And you can see my screen?
I could. Now it's back to just you.
Can you see that now?
I can now.
Okay, so never mind my crazy menu bar here. I'm adding, rewiring some of the searching to go use scope search. And for what we have right now is GPG keys and sync plans. So I'm on the GPG keys screen. You can see that autocomplete is also wired in there. You can search, get results. Also switch over to the sync plans and same thing. Well, we should have that wired in there. I don't see why that's not working there. Oh, let's add a couple. So So if I go in here and search, oh, why am I not getting any? Well, it does work, but GPG is demonstrating properly. So name equals, get the whole thing here. So that's all I've got.
All right, thanks, Steve. Next, we'll move on to Adam to show content management commands for host collections now available in Hammer.
All right, great, thank you. I'm sharing my screen for you already. So what I'm going to show to you is we have, I'm not going to actually show them functioning because that would require me to sync a whole lot of data and then have a few clients registered to then actually be able to complete some of these actions. So I'm just going to show you that they're there and show you that they have options, but they do work. And if they don't, then you need to file a bug. But yeah, they should work. So what we're talking about today is host collection actions. So what that means is the ability to install, remove, and also update packages, package groups, and errata. So I'm going to show you the command structure of what we have here. So we have our host collection, Hammer host collection commands, and then you can see that we have the ability to install, update, remove packages, install, update, and remove package groups, and then lastly the ability to install erratum. And so we can just look at the options for one of these. Host collection. So what you would give it is the ID or the name of the host collection, the organization that it is contained in, and then lastly a comma-separated list of packages. So your command would probably look like, or you'd have the organization, you'd have your ID, and then for packages, well, you just have a comma-separated list. You would run that, and it would install those packages within that on all the systems that are included in that host collection. Same for update and also removal. You would just give it a comma-separated list of packages, and it would execute those on those machines. That's it for me. Is there any questions?
We'll just hang around in case anyone does have any questions.
Alrighty, I'll do that.
Thanks,
Thank
Adam. Next up, we'll move on to Martin to show CAFO Wizard's Wizarding Library.
Hi. During the last sprint, I was working on live CD feature, and part of that was adding ability to set up a networking to Foreman installer. I wanted to reuse most of the work done in Stay-Puft installer, and part of that was or were interactive forms or wizards gathering the configuration data. I make them more generic and standalone, and possible to reuse in other places such as Hammer CLI, for example. Ohad had an interesting idea if it would be possible to optionally render the form as graphical user interface, and I liked that idea, so I added support for multiple rendering backends. Currently, we have only CLI, which is implemented with Highline library, but there are plans for graphical user interface doing through Yet tool or Zenity, and even web-based backend, which will run probably some simple web server, and you will be able to go through the forms in your web browser. Now I will show you simple form. Okay, this one. You probably are familiar with the appearance, which is same as was in Stay-Puft installer. There is name of the form and some optional help. There is a list of the current values added in the form, and there are some actions. In this backend, the default buttons are at the top, and the rest of the buttons are at the bottom, and in between there are changes for changing the values. I can show you how to set up the password if I do some simple one. It will validate the values and ask me again because there are some restrictions. I'll try to type correct one, which passed, and the values were updated, which is not visible because the password is hidden, and a new set of options is offered. If I finish the form, in the script I printed name of the button that submitted the form and also the values that were typed in. I can show you how the source code looks like. It's pretty simple. Here is definition of the wizard, and here we are adding the fields, and then you just run the wizards and read the values here, and that's it. There are some more features built in. There are more field types. There is support for adding custom field types and for modifying the built-in ones. There is also possible to add validations per field or per whole form. There is also support for some interactivity, like there are fields that can influence other fields in the form. If you like it, the library is called CAFO Wizards and live in the Foreman organization. So check it there. There are some more examples in the doc examples directory. And if you are interested, let me know. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Martin. Last up is myself quickly showing a change that we made to the Red Hat repositories page around Kickstart repos. So previously, under the RPMs tab, we would display, for example, under RHEL Linux Server, we would display both RPMs and Kickstart repository sets and repos. That has now been moved out to its own tab at the top. So if you click on Kickstarts, you should only find Kickstart repos. The other change that we made is that when viewing a Kickstart set of repositories, only point release repositories will be displayed to the user. We are intentionally hiding the Kickstart 6 server repos. Note, only the Kickstart repos to enforce the interaction that a user picks a particular point release of Kickstart repos, because the 6 server Kickstart repos don't work the same as the regular 6 server RPM repos. And for users that had previously enabled on an older system, had enabled the 6 server Kickstart repos, those will still show up for the user as being enabled. However, if the user then goes in and disables them, they will disappear from the view from there on out. This also applies to the API. We are generally across the board hiding from users the server.
Eric, they can't see your screen.
What?
You are focused on Martin.
Well, I clicked share to everyone. You would think that that would present it to everyone like it says it's doing. So remember all that I just said without getting to see it, and then just look at this. There's the tab at the top. There's the Kickstart repos. And again, note there is no server Kickstart repos being displayed for the user anymore. All right. Are there any final questions? I will give it about 30 or so seconds for any questions to pop up. All righty. Well, that concludes our second joint Foreman Katello sprint demo. Thank you to all the presenters that showed off today. Thank you to all those that are viewing it in real time and asked questions. Looks like we do have one question coming in at the end. Will we end up hiding the non-kickstart x.y repos as well and have users only rely on filters instead? It seems to introduce some confusion there as well. That is not something that we have necessarily discussed, but I believe, from what I understand, there is still value in having the lower point releases available to users as a someone, Justin or Mike, may have better information. I would ask them on IRC if you. And then the last question is, so where do we find the 6 server kickstarts? Again, we have decided and hidden them from all user views. Again, if you look on the UI or the API, you will not see the 6 server kickstarts returned as a way to discourage users from using them. Since the 6 server kickstarts, as I understand it, always point to the latest point release.
Yes, it's basically a symlink for point release.
Which is different than how the 6 server RPMs repo works.
It's actually the exact same way.
Then why are we?
There's a lot of confusion that 6 server means 6.0, but that is not the case. And that, I'm not sure if that's what you were assuming as well, Adrian. But 6 server is actually pointing to like 6.4, and then when 6.5 is released, all the content is replaced by the 6.5 kickstart. So it's confusing, and it's not what most people want. It's I'm under the impression that it's much better for the user to pick the kickstart tree that they explicitly want, and when a new one is released, to go in and pick that one explicitly as well.
Thank you, Justin, for the in-room assist. All right, that concludes the demo. Thanks again to everyone. We'll see you next time.